The Rubin Report?
Yeah.
Did that also accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right, I'm more than happy to talk about that.
Why did you take Russian money and pretend like you didn't know?
Okay. They gave me no talking points. I did a show. It was
That's
a
the
call-in
point.
show.
But here's what we're missing, Dave, right? I'm not saying Russia gave you a script to say. I'm saying Russia's like, yes, this is our guy. If we fund him more and we give him more influence, he's going to do it for us without even getting a script. Isn't that embarrassing?
So I am here with the man who clapped Dave Rubin's cheeks on the latest episode of Jubilee, No Homo. His name is Mason, also goes by One Hand Politics. Mason, welcome to the program.
Yo, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Mike. Been a big fan for a long time.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to have you. I've been watching you now for a long time as well. You've debated Dave Rubin as well as Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, and you have, I think, mastered the skill of the debate, bro. I think you do a really good job at talking in a way that really debunks the bullshit that they spew. And I think that what makes you so skilled is you know the talking points that they're going to use ahead of time. So you kind of know how to respond and can anticipate what they're going to say. So tell us about just what you did to prepare in general. And then we'll talk about Dave Rubin in a bit, because as you might have guessed, I have quite a bit of questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words. Contrary to what most people think, I've never done like debate before I started doing these Jubilee things. Like I was not a debate person in high school or college. I've always been like argumentative, and I've been very principled in my convictions, which I think is why I'm so passionate about talking about them. And because I hate my mental health, I watch more right-wing media than I do left-wing most times, just because I like to know what this other side is being indoctrinated with. I come from a very conservative part of California. Most people think we're California, a progressive safe haven here. But the places that are conservative are very conservative. I don't know if you've seen reports of like Huntington Beach having White Lives Matter rallies, or a lot of the Inland Empire that's very conservative in nature. I mean, Chad Bianco just ran for governor here. He's one of the most absurd Republican candidates I've ever seen. And California has a lot of these people. And for me, when I have to engage with them, I want to make sure that I know what they're going to say before they just give me a bunch of shit I've never heard before. So I watch a lot of right-wing media. And that kind of is why my motivation to go on Jubilee has remained consistent, because I recognize the faults of a lot of these platforms. Look, I don't think that we should commodify or trivialize a lot of the plights that marginalized people go through, which I see as a very strong criticism of Jubilee that I agree with. But I go on not because a lot of it is to stop these propagandists from getting even more clips that they're going on this platform to begin with for that reason. And then also, I do have this sick pleasure in telling these people to their face that they suck and they're not smart and they're not as sly as they think that they are. And it's very easy when you know the pre-rehearsed dialogue trees that they're going to go down. You can dismantle it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you're very good at it. And to your point about living in a really conservative area, there's always been this talk, like at least within atheists. I was a former neckbeard, part of the Reddit atheist community. And one
Sam Harris super fan. You love Dave too.
Yeah. Not so much, not necessarily a Sam Harris fan per se, but what I was going to say is that, you end up becoming an atheist because you read the Bible, right? And I think the same can be applied to you, where you become a leftist because you know about conservatism so well. You know the talking points, you know the train of thought that they use, if there is any. But I like the way that you kind of approach this Dave Rubin Jubilee debate, because, and I want some background info too, because the way you stepped up, I think you were the second person to debate him. It was like an NBA All-Star walking up to a toddler to dunk on them on like a Fisher-Price basketball hoop. And I love how immediately you started playing to the crowd. You're like, hey, you're the ideas guy. And it's like, okay, this guy Mason is doing this for me. He's doing this for Kyle Kulinski.
I was so excited. I saw this man walk in, and a lot of people don't know, but when you are casted for a Jubilee video, you don't know who you're going to debate until you're there on the day.
Okay.
You're sitting in the circle and you're watching them come out. So you can have speculation because they give you like a vague summary of what the prompts are going to be. And we knew that it was going to be one MAGA influencer talking about wokeism being worse in America. And there's only so many people that could be, right? Like if it's foreign policy focus, it's probably going to be like a Ben Shapiro. If it's about just queer people specifically, it's going to be a Matt Walsh or a Michael Knowles. But we had a sense that it was going to be like a Tim Pool or a Steven Crowder, somebody who's just baking in the culture war issues that is like so 2021 conservative politics. And lucky for me, it was Dave Rubin. And I was just so excited to do these bits. I know all of the lore of Dave Rubin, the ideas, Stephen Molyneux, the Russia money, Tenet, him leaving TYT. everything. And so I was really excited. I was just like, okay, this is just going to be like me doing bits the whole time.
So one thing that I was really curious about is it seemed like he didn't really know that you were trolling him until an uncomfortable amount of time. Everybody
Yes.
else knew. They were laughing. And when did you sense that he finally picked up on it? There was a moment where the camera cut to his face, and right there it looked like he got a whiff of it. But did you think he had any idea? Because like, just talk to me what was going through your mind when you were trolling him, because I feel like he was oblivious, right? Until a very long
Yeah.
time.
No, a lot of these people play dumb to things that they know they're known for. Like Steven Crowder has historically avoided the topic of Sam Cedar. He obviously doesn't want to go there. People have known he's been running for a debate for years. Dave Rubin, the talking about ideas or talking about Tenet, like these are all things that I know that he knows about, but he's never like formally acknowledged. And so when I'm like, okay, I have this opportunity now, he's committed to this Jubilee, he can't run away. I can talk to him about all of it. I started just to bring up these like vague things that I'm not insinuating that I know 100%. I'm playing a little bit dumb. He kind of was going in there expecting that we'd all be a bunch of like college students who were going to get like overly whiny about culture war issues or whatever. And the fact that we all knew exactly what we were doing was perfect. And so when I'm looking at Dave Rubin start to realize like, oh, wait, he's making fun of me. The entire circle is laughing about me. He's trying to keep his composure because he's there to be the staunch conservative who doesn't get his feelings hurt. He doesn't rely on emotions. He's the leader of the marketplace of ideas. And then the whole circle is openly mocking you. You could tell that he was really trying to fight those internal battles.
Yeah, you could see his soul die in that entire debate. And I genuinely.
It was bullying. Like I've been in like 6 of those surrounded things. I've never seen the circle just so like vehemently in hatred around the person that's in the middle. It was so
Yeah.
crazy.
It made me feel bad for Dave Rubin. And I've never felt that before. I don't like that feeling. But there was just such a level of scorn that was palpable that you could see through the screen. And I swear to God, and I said this in my original video where I talked about this, I have never seen a debate go this way before. At least, with regard to Jubilee, where every single person smoked him. There wasn't a single person that I think he did well against. And the reason why I think he did so bad, aside from his intellectual limitations, is that it's obvious he didn't even bother to memorize some standard talking points. And was that the impression that you got as well? I don't think he prepared
No,
at all.
I've been talking about that with everybody around this debate. I was shocked at the amount that he had no preparation, the arrogance to just think, I'm gonna walk in there and just talk to people about why trans rights are something that's bad and should be quite it's crazy. And I was saying he has like a net worth of $5 million. The fact that you have all of these resources, you could hire a debate coach. You've known you've been going on this Jubilee for like a month and you did no preparation for this. It was unbelievable. Very remarkable.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about prep. So how long do you guys have to prepare? Because he comes up with 4 prompts, and then do you guys get a sense of what those are going to be beforehand so you can prepare, or do you just kind of have to roll with it?
So I've been doing these a lot. I have a good relationship with the Jubilee production team. They'll message me if there's like a topic they think I'll be interested in, and then I'll tell them whether or not I want to go through. So that happens probably about 3 weeks before filming. And we're only given this vague idea of what like the title is going to be, right? So for this one, it's one MAGA conservative versus 20 far left Democrats. And my question always to that is, okay, well, what are you considering far left? And they're like, anybody that like is woke and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, well, we're already losing the framing here, but whatever, I'll do it. Like, it sounds like something up my alley. I like shooting shit with the culture war people because they're usually very intellectually challenged people. So I accepted it. Then about like 4 days before the debate, they'll give you like a summary of the topics because I think their idea is they want it to feel fresh. They want it to feel like there's an authentic like conversation. They don't want just 2 people coming in with like these pre-rehearsed monologues that they just want to spew on each other. And even if that is the case in a lot of examples, I try to do very little prep for these. Like I'll think about like the topics and where I want to turn the conversation, but I don't want to have like pre-rehearsed talking points because I feel like it's easy to fall into traps of a lot of right wingers because if they divert you from what it is that you go into the conversation intending to talk about, it can be really easy to get lost in the weeds and then like get a faceplant clip for them. So for me, I'm always just trying to be like, okay, I want to digest exactly what they're saying in real time, have an immediate response to them. And I just went on a Piers Morgan debate where I feel like that format was not really prepared for because it's virtual. There's a lot of people talking over each other. It's really hard to listen to who's exactly talking in that 5-person panel. But in person, I feel like my verbal processing is really good to where I can hear somebody, I immediately have a quip or like a comeback for them, and then I'll stop them from like finishing up their dialogue, which for a lot of those people like Dave Rubin or Michael Knowles or Charlie Kirk, even when I talk to him, you can see like the entire strategy just collapse because they're not able to finish the talking points they thought they were going to go down in this dialogue tree. So that's usually my strategy in this is I want to be as fresh as possible because I just want to adapt to whatever situation's given to me from the conservative.
Yeah, and it helps that you're generally knowledgeable too. I would imagine you do reading, you know how to read, which is important. I don't think a lot of conservatives do. You care about the topics. You actually have a core ideology, and I think the thing that makes it such a disadvantage for somebody like Dave Rubin is I sincerely don't think he has any core political beliefs aside from money. The one thing he's been consistent on is that he believes Israel should be able to indiscriminately kill as many Palestinians as possible. But aside from that, I don't think he's had a real political ideology. So, when you're going up against somebody who doesn't believe in anything, it's so easy to expose them for the fraud that they are. And I think that you and everyone else did that so flawlessly and effortlessly that it was brutal. And one thing I've never seen, and I wanted to get your response to this as well, is the response to the Jubilee thing, because these have been going on, the 1v20 debates surrounded have been going on for a while now. And there's always talk, there's clips that get circulated, but I've never seen a response to Dave Rubin or a response like this, aside from the Dave Rubin one, where Piers Morgan was shitting on Dave Rubin, talking about how embarrassing it was. You have Glenn Greenwald, who was just in an episode of Surrounded, shitting on him. Is your sense that this one was uniquely bad, just given your experience? Because you've debated people like Ben Shapiro. I think you did much better than Ben Shapiro. I think you outsmarted him, but he's still relatively competent because I think he does have beliefs. And at a minimum, he has all these pre-rehearsed talking points in his head. But is there anything unique in your experience with the Dave Rubin? Are we all just are we predisposed to hate him so much that we think he did worse? Or objectively, is there something different here?
Yeah, I think even people that don't know the lore or haven't been involved in the political online space for a long time, even they know that this was not a good showing for somebody in the center. One, I've never seen the amount of fact checks for the person that's in the center of the circle. Every single thing Dave said, immediately Jubilee was like, this is wrong. So this is a lie. On economics, on foreign policy, Dave was just completely outclassed. And you can tell that this is a person who's lazy in their research. A lot of people from the Young Turks have confirmed that he really didn't put a lot of work into any of his segments. He kind of just wanted to read from a script. And maybe that's what Dave occupies is a blank canvas for right-wingers to just spew their ideology to a large amount of people. I think he's like a dumber Joe Rogan, if that could exist. And that really what he is. But for this video, looking at the comment section, usually in Jubilees, you'll see a mix of people that are fighting with one another. Every single comment, I don't think I found a single comment defending Dave. Even the ones that were conservative were mostly just criticizing us on look at all these smug liberals, just taking advantage of this intellectually challenged man. And it's dude, that is more of a criticism than Dave than it is of us. It really is sad that I don't know why he felt confident to do this. What does he gain from this? Dave is not a debater. It was wild.
That's one thing that I still can't process. I don't know what possessed him to think this was a good idea. And another mistake he made afterwards was acknowledging how bad he did, which you run away from this, right? You never acknowledge this again. He tweeted about this, got ratioed into oblivion, and I just wanted you to react to this tweet because, again, it's another decision that I cannot process because it makes no fucking sense. So he tweeted out, people are saying I got, quote, schooled on my episode of Surrounded, which is funny because if anything, I was the only one in the room willing to admit I don't know the details of every single issue before confidently explaining them. That used to be called intellectual honesty. No, we call that being uninformed and being a fucking dumbass. But I want you to respond because I found it hilarious.
Did he really tweeted that? I need to quote tweet that right now. Is that still up?
He has me blocked. So I'm going off of a screenshot from Right Wing Cope.
Okay.
So,
oh my God. I have to go find that because that is just again, like you said, you usually should run from something like this if you have this bad of a showing, just never acknowledge that it happened. I mean, similar to what he does with Sam Cedar or other people that he just wants to pretend doesn't exist. That is hilarious. I don't know why you would admit something like that. Like, I would just say, like, the format was rigged against me, or all of these people came in that are debate regulars, and I'm just there to, like, have a genuine exchange. But that you're so open about, like, I don't know a lot of the shit that I'm talking about. I do a political show every single day, but I don't know how to talk politics. Why would you admit that?
It's crazy. It's like me talking about sports. I
Yeah.
stay in my
No, this
lane.
is like somebody who plays basketball every single day and like can't make a free throw. Like, what are you wasting your time for? Why do you do a political show if you're afraid to talk about politics?
I don't get it, man. And even the person you were debating, Will Chamberlain, on Piers Morgan, he at least was competent enough to go through the talking points and he was obviously wrong. And I think you all did a phenomenal job at debating him, but you could tell he at least did enough to have a response. Whereas with Dave Rubin, he would just kind of like look dejected and say, listen. And then the whole crowd would laugh at him, which is just demoralizing and soul crushing. And so it doesn't make any sense to me. One thing I was hoping you could share is if you had any tea. I know on the Majority Report you said that you actually brought up Sam Cedar and Dave Rubin had that axe. But is there any other tea? And do you want to talk about that a little bit more for my audience, just to explain like what we wouldn't have seen as viewers?
Yeah. So in defense of Jubilee, I don't know if Dave was the one that like made them cut it, or if they just decided to cut it because they thought it wasn't relevant. I don't know like the specific decision making. But what I will say is it was cut, regardless of who is the one who had it cut. There were a couple mentions of Sam Cedar that were axed from the final product, which is funny because at one point I'm like, you suck Trump's dick, and that was allowed in the final. But apparently bringing up Sam Cedar is like too personal or whatever, but I digress. Yeah, I think that there's always things that are cut from these big debates. We're there for a good 5 hours.
Wow.
So it's a lot of filming, and they usually condense it down into like an hour and 30 to 2 hours, whatever it is that they do. But the fact that like, man, if I was Dave Rubin, like I think Sam said this, like I would want all of it cut. Like,
Yeah.
I would just say, please, I don't want to participate in this anymore. I want to revoke any like agreement that I had. It was so bad. I don't even know where to start with what he thought would have looked good if he did have any creative control in what the final product was. Because there's probably one conversation where he felt confident. I think he was talking to like a teacher that he said, or he talked to my friend Zena, who does a lot of leftist content on Instagram and even Twitch, if you guys want to check her out, Zena Weena. But she was like, I'm an open communist. And his eyes light up. He's like, oh, finally, I get to say all of the faults of communism. Do you really think that Mao Zedong is a great person? That's the only thing that he felt confident enough to actually post as a clip, which is hilarious.
Okay, it was 5 hours of filming-ish, right? Every single conversation looked terrible for Dave Rubin. And so I would imagine they wanted to provide a mix, if I'm the editors, so that way it seems as if it's not so lopsided. Is there any conversation that you can recall that we didn't see at least, where he at least did a little good? I mean, even a tiny bit, if we could be the most minimal amount of charitable towards Dave Rubin.
Yeah, I mean, any like conversational exchange, he lost. But what I will say is, I mean, Dave knows how to be on camera. So he's, been on camera for his entire career. He doesn't get nervous like with all of the production and crew surrounding him. There were a couple people in the circle who didn't make the final cut that did talk to Dave, that you guys never got to see, who clearly weren't ready to be on camera. And I think it was like an excitement of like, oh, I'm ready to talk about these things. And then you just get nervous when you're sitting in that chair. That's something I don't feel, maybe because I've been on a lot of the Jubilees and because I just love looking at right wingers who I've watched for so long and have argued with in my car when I'm listening to their shit. And I finally get to talk shit to their face. So that feels good for me. I get excited. But some people you could definitely tell were like, I'm ready for this. And then they sit in the chair and it's just like a complete mind freeze. And Dave probably would have looked better if those were in the final cut. But I think Jubilee doesn't want to like, embarrass people who couldn't really hold their own in those conversations. And those are like the only moments I'd say Dave won, is just like somebody else who's clearly freezing and he just gets to like smugly look at like, well, it doesn't seem like you know what you're talking about. And it's like, okay, dude, neither do you. You lost on every issue.
So you got maybe some default wins if we're being 100% fair. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
He got some like white flags that were thrown by the other people that he would say is a win.
I love that. Okay, last thing I wanted to talk about is, so on my coverage of the Jubilee debate, I watched the full thing, didn't know where to start. I kind of honed in on your portion where you brought up the hypocrisy of him being a gay man, but yet LARPing as this social conservative. And one thing that really astonishes me is he, like, during the height of the grooming hysteria on the right, he actually had the audacity to claim that Disney was grooming kids by putting LGBTQ plus representation in their shows. And it's just such an astonishing thing to say because he's essentially telling his right-wing audience that he too is a groomer by having children, because if being in the presence or exposing kids to homosexuality or any gay love at all, if you just see like a couple holding hands, that's going to turn them gay. I'm assuming that's their definition of grooming. Then that's inherently bad. So I don't understand how, and it seemed, my interpretation of it was that you tried to get him to realize how his own politics was undermining his own fucking dignity. And it was a long exchange. Do you think that you got through to him in any way, shape, or form? Or did you get the sense that he kind of knew he was full of shit? Because that's my guess. I think he knows what he's doing is harmful, but he's doing it anyway because he has to be the token gay conservative. Like, give me your thoughts on that, because that's one element that I was really fascinated by.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you. And you can see that in his eyes when his whole body just like deflates when someone like Ben Shapiro's like, yeah, we're friends, but I would never go to your wedding. Or I think that your marriage is an affront to God. And you can see him just like having to take that in and just like pretend that it doesn't bother him to his audience. But he has the same mentality as a lot of these other like token conservatives who believe that if they identify with these reactionaries or these bigots, then they will be spared when those reactionaries eventually go after the marginalized class. And that's never the case. As soon as trans rights become even more marginalized than they already are, even more stigmatized, what do you think they're coming after next? It's gay rights. And I brought that up to him. Michael Knowles is on a organization that is literally trying to overturn Obergefell by pressuring and lobbying politicians. And the fact that you still identify with that movement or call someone like Michael Knowles a friend while he's actively trying to take away your civil rights is just a spit in your own face. Like, the self-cannibalization of these tokens is something that will always blow my mind because they will never view you as one of the good ones. They view you as a useful idiot that they can use to point to and say, see, look, even some gay people think these gays are going too far. We need to take away their rights, and this person's going to agree with me on that. It is always a self-defeating. It's what's the meme? You vote for the leopards eating face party, you're going to have a leopard that eats your face.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because there was a moment where I think he said it to you, gay marriage is the law of the land or something of that effect. And I think it was today, Stephen Fishback, there's a Florida candidate who is running for governor.
James Fishback.
James Fishback, thank you. He is like a crypto Nazi, in my opinion. He called for a black man who confronted him to get lynched, but he just came out today and said...
He also openly identifies with Nick Fuentes. He says Groypers are patriots. He has asked for Nick's endorsement. Funny enough, I also debated him on a Jubilee, on a round
Did you really?
The audience once. Yeah, if you want to watch me debate the Nazi before he ran for governor, it's hilarious.
Well, he just said today that he's going to ban gay marriage, which is Dave Rubin states. So it's just crazy that he can say with a straight face that everything is copacetic when in his state that he moved to by his own choice, they're trying to destroy his family politically, legally, culturally. It makes no fucking sense to me. And I think that, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
The underlying foundation and philosophy of the current right-wing movement is Christian nationalism.
Yeah, exactly.
And anybody that is not in the in-group will eventually be targeted. That is the point. And so right now it might be trans people, and Dave Rubin might feel safe because he doesn't care about the plight or the equal rights of trans people in this country. He's on the chopping block next. Like, anybody that's not going to be that white Christian conservative will be targeted. And that's not hyperbole. That is literally the aims and goals of the leaders of this movement.
Yeah, and on the note of trans rights, when the final portion of the debate took place, for those who don't know, the person who is debating everybody else, they get to choose somebody to debate their prompt. And Dave Rubin chose maybe a girl, a trans woman whose prompt was trans rights or human rights. And this is the one area where Dave Rubin should have been able to shine, right? He's the gay conservative who can definitively say trans people are bad, they're a threat to us gays. Like, we know the turf talking points. But again, he got clapped. And it's just crazy that even the things that should be his wheelhouse, which is LGBTQ plus, social injustice warrior, he still did not do a very good job. And it's just, it blows my fucking mind. I keep coming back to this question. Why did he choose to do this? And we'll never know. We can't get into Dave Rubin's head. If we did, there'd just be, dust and cricket stripping. But yeah, so before we go, Mason, just tell everybody any final thoughts you have, any additional information you wanted to give us about the debate, and tell us what you do and where we can find you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know why Dave did this. If you look at his YouTube metrics, this is a guy with millions of subscribers that's barely getting thousands of views. It's very clear that his project is headed in the gutter. And while he thought that this Jubilee might have a resurgence, I think that it's done worse for his career. I mean, he will be ridiculed for the next month probably of people just milking out these clips. And while it's great for me and my brand, I do feel bad a little bit for Dave. But yeah, if you want to see more of my stuff, you can find me on Twitch or Twitter. Unfortunately, I use Twitter probably the most, at One Hand Politics, also on Instagram and all those others. It's all consistent, but we're disabled, man. Talking about politics, One Hand Politics is easy branding. So you can find me anywhere there.
Mason, thank you so much. This was a delight, and I look forward to watching more Jubilee debates with you. I will say, this is weird, but I don't like debates. It kind of gives me a headache. This one renewed my love for Jubilee debates. I used to watch like the goofy, there's 6 people and one of them is a secret gay or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And some of these debates here and there. And then I kind of just like, yeah. But this one really renewed my love for it. I don't know if it's just because Dave Rubin got so thoroughly demolished, but I will be watching more, especially the ones with you and Parker and maybe. I think you guys fucking crushed it. And I love that this is kind of your breakout moment. His loss is your gain. So I love to see that.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.
Ideas. In recovery mode, my brain ideas. In recovery mode, my brain ideas.